भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहैः। ओम शांति शांति शांतिः। ईश्वर प्रणिधानात्वा. Before we go to that sutra, previous sutra, he says that mrudumadhya adhimatratvat tataha api visheshaha. The speciality is that there are people who can go in a gentle way, medium, extreme. All these things are based on somebody's nature also, sattva, rajas, tamas. According to that, they try to practice. But what happens is that there are two things that are there. One is that your passion towards that is the same. The way methodology that you adapt is something which is according to the gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. Somebody may be aggressive, somebody may be less aggressive, somebody may be mild, gentle. So all these three things are there. So the practice's effort could be classified as mild, moderate, medium, and intense. And according to that, the people will have that effect of that particular thing. Now, again, here we need to understand that all these states of samadhi, they are there within us. Now, depending upon the nature that you start experiencing those things in the normal course of time, normal day-to-day life, and then you recognize that. Some people will have very easily all these effects. Some people may not have so easily the effect of all these things that are the states of mind, an experience of mind that is there within. So, the whole approach is to see that there are various ways of experience people there. That means to say, somebody's experience may not be similar to another person's experience. We can't expect that. So that is why all these classifications, all these ideas are given. Though the methodology outside is adapted by, methodology belongs to the nature that is there, belongs to the world outside, but intention is yours. The intention deep inside is very intense. At that point of time, the shraddha, the dedication for that is something which is very deep inside. Then that is what takes you forward to see that these experiences will happen. Methodology may be different, and in fact, everywhere that you can see this kind of variation in the methodology. Say, like even in the case of bhakti, when you take it, some people type of bhakti is very intense, that you can see that how they're so aggressive kind of a thing. There are so many things that are not. But some people, bhakti is very mild, soft and gentle. Not that they have less bhakti or anything like that, but the external manifestation is in the form of a mild, soft and gentle kind of thing, because they're sattvic in nature. And somebody is tamasic, rajasic in nature, somebody is tamasic in nature. All these things are possible. So therefore, all these three different categories that he has given, just to see that how people can have different kind of an approach towards that. After that, Ishvara Pranithanatva. This seemed to be a very sweeping statement that Patanjali gives it. Va is otherwise, or it means all other ideas that he puts set aside in the balance, and Ishvara Pranithana, he puts it on the other side of the balance. It's a very unique thing. That means alone Ishvara Pranithana is capable of getting you to that particular experience compared to all other practices, all other situations that are there. And this you could see that, like even ordinary people who have no idea, know nothing, and all those things, but when they go to places like where there's a lot of people are engaged in dancing, engaged in puja, various varieties of things. Like, for example, people go to Ganga Arati, where there's so much of activity that's going on, all focused towards the Ganga Aarti. Particularly, you see thousands of people and such a pure way that they do that Aarti. You suddenly feel the aspect of surrender, the aspect of respect and divinity that is there. In fact, when I went to Rishikesh to see the Ganga Aarti, I was so drawn by that Ganga Aarti. I was thinking that anybody who comes from the West, first thing is that they should attend one of these Ganga Aartis in the beginning. Then they go around the country. The whole mind's approach in the mind, the value in the mind is totally changed. And in fact, that's one of the Western authors also has written that when you come to see what's happening in India with all kinds of things that is there, then you believe that there is God, there is divinity that is there. Divinity does not mean that this particular God or that particular God, but very simple idea is that there is divinity present. So it is that kind of a feeling that you get. This divinity is not anywhere else, and the divinity came up within your heart. It's about your heart which is having that kind of a divinity feeling. And so the when such a thing happens, then it is very contagious. It's very productive that way. So therefore you surrender yourself. You don't what is meant by Ishvara, this pranidhana. Pranidhana has different ways that you offer yourself to, that is what is called as pranidhana. Now, last time also I was explaining that you recognize the presence of the godliness within somebody, godliness, the soul within somebody. That's what we say in the form of namaste. Namaste is my consciousness is offering salutations to your consciousness. This is what is the idea. My Atman is saluting to you. That means I'm transcending the material body level, and then I go beyond that. When once at that level, it is whether it is a child or an adult, he is an Atman, you are an Atman. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I always insist that the adults who know about this idea that they should do the namaste first to the children, so that children also would be able to see that divinity in everybody. And whereas, look at the way that the other ideas like namaste, hello, and all the good morning, hello, and all that, they're very non-committal kind of thing. They're very secular kind of thing. There is nothing like trying to see something which is beyond. Whereas namaste is something which is trying to see not the physical body, but behind that, what is the soul? What is that? The real consciousness which is there behind. That's what I'm seeing. In fact, that is one of the reasons why we go to the temple and offer our prayer in front of the image that is there. We don't see the image, we don't see the stone, but we see the divinity that is there behind the stone. In a stone, you can see the divinity. Can we not see that same kind of divinity behind a human being? All other external impressions are there that you put it aside. All other things that are there put aside. You see the divinity. And this is what, it's not only in our culture that is there, but we say the same thing in about every culture. That's the reason why we say that when somebody dies, we always say nice things about him. The idea is that he is supposed to be nice only because the influence from outside that he has become bad. You don't recollect all the wrong things. However bad he may be, however horrible he may be, when somebody dies, we always say positive, nice things about that person because you see the divinity that is there behind him, goodness that is there behind him. Unfortunately, because of circumstances, because of something external, that he behaved in a different way, or maybe his behavior towards me is different, but his behavior towards at least some people may be in a divine way, in a good way. So this is how the way that we approach this idea of looking at somebody, not from the physical manifest point of view, but what is there in the form of unmanifest behind it, and that's what is the divinity that we see. It seems that there was it's very, not only that when somebody dies, even when somebody leaves the office and going at that time also, that when the farewell party that is there, we never talk of anything about what all the things bad experience or what that is there in him, that we don't recollect. All that what we recollect is nice things that he has done, good relationship that he has. Unfortunately, there may be some negative things, but we don't even refer to that. That is a small little reference we do it. The idea is that we try to see the goodness that is there in a person, because originally that we have, minus all these things we are born with, we are good. That's what is the idea. The spirituality is saying that deep inside the goodness is your nature. In what Krishna gives in the Daivi Sampat, that means to say the divine qualities that we have, and Asuri Sampat, the devilish quality or the demonic qualities that we have. He says Daivi Sampat is something which will give us the freedom. Asuri Sampat is which binds you down. And he assures Arjuna, saying that, hey Arjuna, that you have abundance of Daivi Sampat. When Krishna says to Arjuna, it is not that Arjuna is addressing, but it is for the whole mankind. He is saying that we have Daivi Sampat within us. So to start with, we have that divine qualities. That's what is our soul. Very simple idea is that, yes, I do wrong, or I'm angry with somebody, or jealousy with somebody. It is because that originally it is not like that, but the I comes into the picture, then it converts itself into jealousy, anger, and all those things. So therefore, if the I were not to be there, basically, then there was a goodness that is there prevailing. So the deep inside that, when we see that goodness, and that's what we offer our prayer. This is what is Namaste. Deeper than that Namaste, then like for example, somebody like a teacher, guru, or somebody that we go, then what happens is not only that we see the goodness, but we also we also respectfully that we refer to the goodness. And this is what one step ahead, saying that pranidhana. So that may be in the temple, that may be in a person when we meet, or somebody who is a teacher. You feel like touching the feet. It so happened, there is a belief in our culture is that when I touch somebody's feet, when I'm elder, and he's elder, and then I'm younger, then what happens is that my long life that is there, I'm giving it to somebody else. That means I give him to live long. That's what is the idea of doing the pranam to the elders. The youngsters doing the pranam enhances the age of that elders, is one feeling in some parts of the country that is there. And it so happened that in somebody coming from that part of the country in USA, when I was going and giving talks, that was a long time ago, 20 years ago, then I used to give talk. At the end of talk, people used to come and touch my feet. But then there was one lady, she was hesitating to touch my feet. Though deep inside in her heart, she just wanted to pay that respect in the form of pranidhana. This is what is pranidhana. Touching the feet. But then one day, by mistake or by something like that, somebody who was introducing me for the audience, usually when you introduce somebody, you don't go for the biodata and read everything that is there. But then that person, he read born in Kammam and then the date and all that, and all those things that were there in the profile, and then he read all that. And I was just thinking there, why is he reading all this kind of thing? But then what happened is, when he read that profile, the lady found out in that she is younger than me by at least 2 months. She came to me later on, and she came and touched my feet at the end of it. She said, Raghuram, today was a very thrilling day for me. I said, what? When I read that your date of birth, I see that you are my elder brother, like, you are at least two months older than me. So therefore that I can definitely wholeheartedly touch your feet. What a wonderful sentiment that is there. That means to say you touch the feet out of respect, so that you give somebody that benefit of living for long and all that connection that you establish. This is what is the idea of pranidhana. So Ishvara pranidhanatva, that means I see something good, I see something nice. This is what is the one that makes me to see that, go to the origin. So this Ishvara Pranidhana is more towards the bhakti aspect of it. Now we are talking about Raja Yoga, all the principles of Raja Yoga. Suddenly in Raja Yoga principle, this idea of Ishvara Pranidhanatva comes about. One wonders that why Patanjali put this way. Now, many times what happens is that you have suddenly the experience of various tranquil, peaceful states within you, which is beyond the material level that you expect, but it is something which is deeper, subtler than material level. That's what is the level of consciousness. That's what we are talking about, various samadhi states. And that will happen suddenly when there is a experience of that surrendering of what is there outside. This is what is Ishvara Pranidhana. The idea of your surrendering is more important than what is that object that is there outside. Day before yesterday, also in one talk, somebody was asking me this question: surrender to who? Surrendering is important. To who is not important. The moment you bring into the idea of who, then it becomes like religion. Whereas who is not there, surrender aspect is there. That's what is yoga. So surrendering is in your heart, and then the outside is what belongs to the who. So that don't worry about it. That is where people, when the moment that Patanjali gives us Ishvara Pranidhanatva, they replace that Ishvara by their own image of God, whatever the God that they believe in. So somebody says that Ishvara Pranidhanatva, it is Pranidhana towards the Shankara, Shiva. Somebody says no, it is Rama. For somebody else, it is Dakshinamurti. So like that, we put various gods and goddesses there, and somebody says that it's only Allah, nothing but Allah. That is what is the prayer that they say. So like that, they put their God in that particular place of Ishvara, the God that is there. Patanjali is very, very clear, scientific about that. Therefore, he does not want unnecessarily give room for this kind of an imagination of your own, and then again lose the track of it. The idea is about the surrender, purity, and then go to the original origin of it, not the question of anything which is there, external implications. That's why the next sutra, he gives the idea, Ishvara Pranidhanatva. That's why I said this va is very important in the sense that all other methods of yoga, practices, sadhana, and upasana, krama that is there, all those things are put aside as one side in the balance, and on one side, on the other side, only one thing, that is Ishvara Pranidhana. That means the surrender aspect of it. We have examples to show in our Puranas to give that way, like Krishna's wife Satyabhama, and she was so arrogant, but beautiful, arrogant, powerful, and all those things. But then her arrogance was making that, yeah, I can give, Narada is a mischief saint was there, and he says that you offer in the puja Krishna, but then you buy Krishna by putting equivalent to Krishna, and that's what is the balance of Krishna, and then you can take it. So simple. Oh, that's all, I have so much. So she gave away Krishna, but then whatever that she has, that she was trying to put on the balance, no, it doesn't really move Krishna, not even a bit. And now she's in trouble. What to do? What all that is there that she gave it. Then Narada says, look, you failed. Therefore, whoever buys Krishna, that is fine. We'll give it to him. And then panic that was there. And finally, another wife that was there, Krishna's wife, Rukmini, she comes there, and then she just puts one tulsi leaf there, and then the balance goes on the other side. But that tulsi leaf, out of total surrender, bhakti, she put it. Just to give an idea that what is more important thing is to see that this aspect of surrender, that's extraordinary, that can win the God for you. So therefore, Ishvara Pranidhanatva, that Ishvara also moment that you try to combine Ishvara and Pranidhana, it's supposed to be that surrender, humility, that no claim of ego is there. And that elaboration is the next sutra that he gives. Who is this Ishvara that he is talking about? Therefore, Patanjali does not leave us an imagination about that Ishvara. So, therefore, the next sutra, Klesha Karma Vipaka Shayahi Paramrushtaha Purusha Visheshaha Ishvaraha. So, Klesha Karma Vipaka Shayahi. And what is the idea behind it is that klesha, that means all those painful experiences. Earlier we have seen that vritti can create two kinds of things, klishtaha, aklishtaha. And whatever that is creating klishta is supposed to be klesha. Klesha is the painful experiences or the afflictions, or they are already a tainted imagination that's there about klesha. And karma, the action that are there, and then vipakashaha are supposed to be the fruits. That means to say, whatever that is the klesha and also karma, they leave behind you some fruits, some results, and ashayaha. Not only that they leave fruits, but then you developed an attachment with that. Asha means desire. So you develop the desire for that or the attachment for that. Aparamrushtaha. Paramrushtaha is getting lost in that, getting carried away by that. But aparamrushtaha is where that you are not attached, you are not touched by that. You do all because we need to involve in the activity outside. That's what is the idea of vritti. Vritti is the activity that we do it. Every vritti has got some residues of the klesha, and the activity is the karma. Both these things are there. And then we do the activity so that we have an idea that it is going to give the result. Whether it gives the result or not, yes, sometimes result will give what we get the result elates us. If we do not get the result, it depresses us. Both these things are there. These are all the natural reactions that are happening in the process of involving an activity, and this is what is the idea of vritti. So vritti has got whether it is the klesha, and then whether it is the idea of karma, and then vipakasha, that means to say the vipaka, the result of it, all those things are there. And now you get easily attached to that, you get easily carried away by that. This is what is called as ashaha. And aparamrushtaha, that means to say, not touched by that. All these things you are not touched by that. Then what happens is that your goalpost does not change. Your attempt does not change, and you always have, all right. The idea is that if this fails, that I can do the other way. That fails, I can do the third way. And you have a liberty, you have a freedom to go on changing the paths and all those things, but then you can continue in that direction. You don't get carried away by the result that comes in the form of good or bad, right or wrong. Well, this way, your inner being is not touched by either the klesha or the karma and whatever that they are going to give the result. Paramrushtaha, aparamrushtaha, purusha vishesha. Why he calls it as purusha vishesha? Purusha is there within all of us. Whatever that is there, the body is called as Puri. Body is supposed to be Puri. Puri means the city. That's why we have an expression of Puri for the city everywhere. And then the lord of this particular city, the leader of this particular city, like the way this body is also a huge city. There are billions of cells that are there. And then all these cells for working who? And they're all working for the inner consciousness that is there. And that inner consciousness, it is that which is actually seeing through the eyes. It is that which is listening to the ears. And it is that which is making us to talk. So it is that inner consciousness. This is what we call it as Purusha. It's for the sake of Purusha is using this whole body. This is what is the Sankhya philosophy picture. And that's what is the way that yoga also views like that. But then what happens to the normal Purusha that we have? this normal Purusha is easily influenced by interaction with the world outside. Yes, I see somebody, immediately my imagination of that particular person, whatever that is there from the previous life, it comes into the picture. I have that person an idea that he is good or he is bad, or maybe he's like this, he's not like that. Immediately we run our story behind it. However much we say that we should not do it, still that influence is there to some degree, or less or more, or somebody gets that as something which is absolute. But then people that who are cautious about it, who know about it, they say that yes, this impression is there, but let me still hold it tight without being that impression. So this is what is Purusha, working through the sensory organ, working through the memory, external senses or the internal senses, memory, etc., etc., all those things, logic, and then external senses that are there. So through that, then we work and we see that. And influence, we cannot avoid it. So this is what is basically the way that Purusha is working in this world. And that Purusha is not anybody else, it is you. And what he says, Purusha Visheshaha, that means to say, a Vishesha Purusha is somebody who is pure from all these things. So one who is free from all those things, Purusha Visheshaha, Ishvaraha. Now you see that Ishvara is not anywhere outside, it is your own deep inner being. That's what is Purusha Visheshaha. Klesha karma vipakashayehi paramrushtaha Purusha Visheshaha Ishvaraha. Every karma, every activity that we do, oh, okay, let's go from this level. Every vritti manifests in the form of karma. Every karma has this complication behind it. That's what is the klesha. And some kleshas are something which can not leave any klesha behind it. That's why we have called as klishta vritti or klishta vritti. But however much that we see that we are going towards the aklishta vritti, vrittis which do not leave any impressions, but still because that our involvement in the world outside, it still leaves certain amount of klishta within us. It's a very beautiful story, Jataka Katha, that is there in the Buddha's life. There is a Bodhisattva, supposed to be one of the great realized person in the Buddhas. What happened is that all that he has finished, there are no more vrittis, no more karma, there is nothing. But then this body continues as long as that it is meant to live. So therefore the body is continuing. And then what happened was that when this body is continuing, he was just sitting in a very peaceful way in a hermitage and in a forest, and naturally that a small little deer comes into that, very sweet and it's absolutely peaceful, non-violent. And the moment that you look at, you are get attracted to it. So he was taking care of the deer. Next 5-10 years that he was alive, he was taking care of the deer. But in the process that he was taking care of the deer, though there was no idea, anything behind that, but he occupied his mind so much. That means his mind is caught up by the idea of this deer so much. That's what it is, the idea of karma left the impressions on him. So vipaka, and that means the resultant of that in the form of impression. And then he dies, comes back to the rebirth, and this rebirth was in the form of a deer, because that is what is mindfully occupied. That created the rebirth for him in the form of a deer. The story says that he is a great jnani, but in the form of deer. So this is the idea of how these impressions will follow you. So Purusha Visheshaha is that where you are not followed by all these things because of klesha and the born out of karma that you are doing. And then what it left, the impressions behind it is the vipakasha, and then aparamrushtaha, not being caught by that expression that is given in the form of padmapatramivamasa, like the way lotus leaf on the water. The water itself is its food. Water is bed. It grows in the water. It nourishes by the water. In spite of all those things, you try to see the water drop on the lotus leaf. It is not touched by that. It is still hanging as a pearl on top of that. When you do not get attached with that, then this world is like a pearl. World is like a great, wonderful thing in front of you. You see the world as divinity. That's what he says, that klesha karma vipakashaihi aparamrushtaha purusha vishesha ishvaraha. And that Ishvara is within you and within me. And it is that purity that we see in the world outside. Therefore, it is always said, the world that you see is a mirror of you. It mirrors you. If you're angry, the world looks angry. If you are jealousy, the world, everybody looks like jealousy. In fact, many times people say that a thief, when he's amazed the people, he thinks that everybody is trying to steal the money from him or pick his pocket. So because he has that idea, and then he has the same kind of view. So therefore, basically, the world is what you are inside. That's what you see. If you're able to see the divinity in the world outside, it is possible only when you see the divinity within you. And sometimes when people go to that state of surrender, that is the pranidhana state, at that point of time, they have this expression. So these experience of this all these things idea that has come to explain about asampragnata samadhi. So the asampragnata samadhi state is there within us, and then once in a while we have the glimpse of that experience of asampragnata samadhi from any place. It may be from the wakeful state or dream state or deep sleep state, whatever it is. Suddenly we touch that asampragnata samadhi, absolutely no prajna about outside, but we are just simply peaceful. And that experience that wake up, it may be a small little glimpse. You might know it or you might not know it, but that is there within you. You touch that state. Like the way when pendulum is swinging from one side to the other side, in between, however short it may be, there is a point where the pendulum comes to a total 100% halt. And pendulum itself is not being there. That's what is the state we come to. And that is what we can get it to. This is Parama Purusha, that is the state that is there within us. So, in that state, when you reach that klesha karma vipakashaihi paramrushta purusha vishesha, and that state that we get from that is what is called as anyaha, that is asampragnata samadhi. In that state, in that particular condition of Paramapurusha, tatra niratishe sarvajna bijam. This state of peaceful, blissful state, not touched by anything, and that is what is the state where the knowledge is infinite. Sarvajna, jna is the knowledge, sarvajna, that means to say every knowledge that is there. Tatra niratishaya sarvajna bijam. And all other things that there is only a small little idea, but in this particular case, it is the tatra niratishaya sarvajna bijam. So, let me try to so this God, this idea, this divinity, this Ishvara is something which is like having all the knowledge. Now, what happens is that we have all the images of God that we have are the images which have got some capacity, some extraordinary, wonderful degree of capacity, or that is there. Like the way that a small little lamp that we have is supposed to be the light, but whereas a billion times of that light put together is what we call it as sun God. So the image of God for us, I don't know how the word in English that God comes. Somebody says that it is generator, organizer, and destroyer. Anyway, let us keep it aside. But the way that Deva, it is the Sanskrit expression of Deva, we replace the Ishvara with the help of Deva. And that Deva for us is coming from the word called Divya. Divya means it is multiplied a billion times. That is why we say sun God. That means whatever that light that we see, billion times we multiply, and that becomes the sun. As a result of it, what is the outcome of it? I have respect for the sun, but I also have equally the respect for this light that we have. That's why we offer our prayers to the light. And each one's ability, capacity, and preference, that he can see God in one thing or the other. For somebody, it is the light, the God. For somebody, it is knowledge, the God. For somebody, it is the art or creativity, is the God. So it can be several things that can be there, but all these things are the manifestation of that Purusha Vishesha in the form that you can manifest whatever that you have by looking at that as your divinity. In fact, that's one of the reasons why, for a poet, he imagines the God to be an extraordinary, wonderful poet, then naturally it helps him to see that he manifests that divinity within him in the form of extraordinary poetry. This is what in Bhagavad Gita, 11th chapter, he says that I am the extraordinary thing of in everything that is there. That's what is the Vishwarupa. He says that he is there in everything. So therefore, basically, that all other things are the small little aspect of this infinite possibility that is there. And that infinite possibility is there within you. And it therefore, when we have this deep insight, that experience of going to the unmanifest, from that all these things come. So a little digression, but let me give you one small little simple idea saying that how this is supposed to be the infinite possibilities, sarvajnaha, that means everything that is there. When I was giving a meditation workshop in Mumbai, so half an hour I would give a talk and then half an hour we would sit for meditation. When I was giving talk, people make notes out of it. When I'm making them to sit down for silence and meditation, somebody was still making notes. I was shocked, I was surprised, saying that people make notes out of my words, I can understand it. But somebody makes notes out of my silence also. So therefore, at the end of the meditation, I asked him, so what is that you are writing down when we are sitting for meditating? Are you finding something to write when I in my silence? He said, no, nothing like that. But when we sit in silence, then so many solutions for my problems they come up. When we sit in meditation, so many solutions which for a long time that is hanging and all those things come up. I don't want to miss that, I write down. That means on one side, he wants to go beyond the thought, and on the other side, he is recording the thought. That means you are inviting the thought, but at the same time want to go beyond the thought. Is it not contradictory? At that time, I told that person, look at the way, if a small little glimpse of silence can give you a solution, if you are soaked yourself into the silence, are you not the mass of all that solution that is there? This is what is called as Sarvagnya Bija. That means it is a bija from which everything can come. All the solutions come into that. You don't have to look for solution. The solutions emerge out of it, like the way the flower emerges out of the seed, some out of the plant. The flower is there hidden inside the plant, and then it emerges out. That inside, the flower is not in the form of a flower anymore. It is an unmanifested way, it is there. So when you go to the unmanifest has everything that is there. Sarvajna is there at the unmanifest level. From this comes. The idea of Sarvajna is also extraordinary. That's why God does not repeat the model again. He had a wonderful person, Krishna, coming out of him, out of unmanifest. But another Krishna will not come. Ram Krishna comes, Rama comes. So that means to say, yes, variety. And we are all unique that way in our own way. Think that you are extraordinary, and then whatever that activity that you do is the manifestation of your own extraordinary way that it is there. Each one is so unique. This many people mistook it, saying that once you reach the Brahman, then you have a solution for everything. Yes, it is true, but it does not mean that you know. Sarvajna, yajnatva sarvamitam jnatam bhavati is the way that Upanishad uses it. That means to say you will know everything. That means to say once you sit down, meditate, you will know about quantum mechanics, you know about mechanics, you will know about engineering, it's not that you will know that. The idea is that That silence that you reach is the source for all these things. Again, that when once you need to manifest any particular thing, then you focus on that area and then you develop. If you want to develop math, yes, you have to focus on the work in the math. But what is the advantage that you get? Sarvajna Bijam is the way that your effort now, you can put it in one direction and then manifest that way. So this is what is the idea of Sarvajna Bijam. Tataha Niratishaya. Atishaya, that means to say basically that uh, there is a limit, and Niratisha, absolutely, there is no limit at all, and that's what is the Sarvajya Bijam. And Purvesham api Guruhu Kalena Anavachet. He has the teacher even at the earliest teachers, since he is not limited by time. This Sarvajna, that is their Purusha, that is their withenness, it is not within the time. Time is born out of creation, and then creation is bound by the time. This is why we say the way that the unmanifest level, it comes to the manifestation level. When it comes to the manifest level, what is that one particular principle on which that manifestation takes place? He says that one principle on which manifestation takes place is the Kala Chakra. That's why we always have this picture of Kala Chakra, supposed to be immediately next to what is called as Brahman, the Atman, or the consciousness that is there. So that means to say time is born from that. After the time is born, all these things are there. Your age is within the time, your development is understanding is within the time. All other things are time bound. When you go to that state where it is asampragnata samadhi, don't have anything connected with that. That's the moment where you cross the barrier called as time. Time is also a barrier within this creation aspect of it. And there is a glimpse that you go to the level where beyond the time barrier that you cross. In fact, later on, when we look into samadhi experiences, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, later on, we will understand about these various features more clearly. But then there is a level where we cross the time. In fact, our own experience is like that. When we, many times from the sleep, suddenly we go to that state of samadhi where we are beyond time. Therefore, when we get up, suddenly we are exposed to a time, which is say 15 days later, 1 month later, something like that, and you see some experience. But then that doesn't match with now. Therefore, we immediately rush back to what is now. But then we have a glimpse of that experience of that. That's why later on, as the time progresses towards that point, suddenly you start feeling that, yes, I've seen that, I know that, this what are the details. Like many people express that, yeah, I remember that I somehow intuitively know that we four of us will be sitting together and discussing about this point. And this what normally that in English we call it as deja vu experience. An experience where normally in the human language that you cannot explain it. But Patanjali says it is that when your consciousness surges beyond the level of the parameter called time, suddenly you have a glimpse of it, but it does not match with the surroundings. Therefore, that you come back and then you reach again that back state. So, therefore, this sarvajna that is there is something which is there behind. It's always there within us. It gives us one chilling feeling, that is, it means to say there is nothing like future, past, present. It's all there. Yes, the whole creation is like a matrix. It's always existing. Like the way that, more beautifully that it can analyze is that it's given by Mr. Finn in his book, very beautiful. He said that ordinary person were at the bottom of the hill, and then this person is at the top of the hill. And the bottom of the hill, somebody is there, he has one particular direction to go to reach the top of the hill. Whereas one who is top, he sees several ways all around. He sees what are the impediments, what are the difficulties in each path. That's why it is given very beautiful expression. Somebody at the bottom he will have a point of view. Somebody is at the top of the hill, he's at a viewpoint. When you are at a viewpoint, you can see all kinds of things that are there. But when you're at the point of view, at the bottom of the hill, what is there in front of you, that's what you proceed. You go ahead with that. So, this is what is the Purveshamapi Guruhu. All these kind of teachers who are there, who are giving us various paths, yes, depending upon our own requirement, depending upon our own state of mind, or more easily said, depending upon the position where we are at the bottom of the hill, the teacher is supposed to guide us. Each teacher guides us in our own way, and then we proceed in that further. But then somebody who's on the top of the hill is somebody, he's Purvesham Api Guruhu. That means behind all these gurus, that he is the ultimate guru who is there. He is the one who knows about all these paths, all these ways. Unfortunately, what happened is that these religions created this feeling that my path is the only path, my way is the only way. Whereas the way that when we look at it, different kind of people, different sets, ideas, they have different ways of approach towards that. Even if the children can be twins, born at the same time to the same parents in all conditions, you can see that how different that they can be. They're totally different. So, like that, when you can see that kind of a thing, variety can be there in the world outside. So, kalena anavache, that means to say, they are not in the time, they are beyond the time, they are not bound by the time, they are above the time. This is what is the idea of Parama Purushaha, Purusha Visheshaha. So, this, that means to say, all other things are the local paths, and then this Guru is the highest path that is there, and tasya vachakam pranavaha. He brings about this idea of Om. Let's try to understand this idea of Om. And then he tasya vachakam pranavaha tajjapa tatapta bhavanat tatah pratyak chetana adhigamaha api antaraya abhavasya. These are the three sutras. Let's try to touch upon these sutras. The Pranava is something which, from the most important symbol that comes from the scriptures, it is in fact, another place in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, in the Bhagavad Gita, he says that all the Vedas that are there, and the essence of the Vedas, he calls it as Pranava. What is this essence of the Vedas? What are the Vedas? Vedas are all the activity that has gone in this particular culture being recorded in the form of books. So, people who have followed various paths, various styles of life, all that recorded in the form of Vedas. Now, there is one simple principle behind this particular whole culture. Wherever this Sanatana Dharma is there, the essence of this culture is that it always provides us a path, a journey to go towards the ultimate. Moksha, Mukti is the essence of this particular culture. That's why we have what is called as Purushartha. Purushartha means purpose of life. Other cultures' purpose of life is not beyond this world. Purpose of life can be, I have to become the best scientist, I have to become publisher, I have to rise in the scales. That's what is the way that the rest of the world cultures aimed at. Their aim is always achieving something in this world. And based on this only, Abraham Maslow has given us the hierarchy. The idea is that manifest your best in this world. And that he gives various ideas. It's about the world outside. Whereas the picture of hierarchy that's given in this culture is that you manifest the inner bliss, divinity that is there. It's an inward journey. The essence of this culture is to see that we go to that place where we go to the origin, we go to the essence of this whole thing that is there in the form of divinity. Moksha is the idea that we have. How many people will go in that direction, that is different, because it's like a pyramid. The pyramid purpose is to see that it creates that peak. But then how many are in the peak? There's a large base that is there. But then as we go up, base comes down and comes down. And then finally, there are few people who reach the peak. In the field of yoga also, that there are a lot of people who actually practice yoga, a large number. That's what is the large base of the peak of the pyramid. But then a few people take an interest in further journey, few go further journey. Like that, when we go, that there is a position where a position is there at the top. A few approach that state. This is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita also. He says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kasyit yatata siddhayet yatatamapi siddhanam kaschin mam veti tattvataha. One in a person like that will go to the top peak of millions of people. So, but then the goal of this particular culture is to reach that top, and that is what is unmanifest level. That's what he gives us in the whole of Patanjali Yoga Sutras. The idea is to see that manifest world is there outside, but then there is so much of depth of unmanifest level inside. That's what we have seen in the form of samadhi, and from there we went to the samprajnata samadhi, then we go to the asamprajnata samadhi. So some people are there who can reach to the top of it, and that top of it is what is called as Purusha Vishesha. And he says, Tasya Vachakam Pranavaha. Now, how this Pranava is evolved from the Shastras is that all that what is there in the manifested world is nothing but words. You can put them in the form of various names. The name is given to everything that is there in the world. Because it has a name, that's how it lingers in our mind. Anything that lingers in our mind is because it has a name. You just close your eyes and sit down for meditation. The dialogue goes on. All the dialogues belong to the language. And then all the language, whatever the dialogue goes on, it is between the sounds A and M. A is the beginning of all the sounds, Ma is the end of all the sounds. And this is recognized mystically by every religion. Therefore, that they try to see that this whole thing called as the manifestation, they put them together in the form of Am. And we have put it middle word called as Aum, as Om. But somebody put it as Amin. Amin means purity. Somebody puts it as Amen. So therefore, in the Christianity and the Jewish religion, when they finish the whole thing, they say Amen. Amen means that's what is the manifested word together as one. I don't know whether anybody feels that way or not. Everybody feels that way or not. But then that's what is the basic idea that is there. Same way, what we have is that Aum is the way that the whole manifest world is there. But Upanishads say that Om has Chatushpat, 4 parts. And that 4th part is the most important part, where I is not there, Ma is not there, U is not there, and only silence is there. That means Om represents not these words, but Om represents the silence which is beyond the words. When the Om also dissolves, whatever the silence left is what is called as Pranava. So, in other words, that it is that silence from which that Aum emerges. From that silence, everything emerges. So, therefore, the creation is from that silence to Ma U A, and the dissolution is from A U M to silence. This is what the way Upanishad puts it. And this can be in any path, any way. And this ultimate is called as Aum Pranavaha. And that Pranava is supposed to be that the silence which follows Aum. Beyond all the words. A silence where the words cannot reach. In fact, that's what Upanishad also again and again says in several ways. Yat vasha anabhyudatam yena vak abhyudyate tadeva brahmatvam vidhi naidam yadidam upasate. That means to say, yasya vacha anabhyuditam. That means to say, words can never reach there, because words dissolve before they reach there. Anabhyuditam. From where all the words have come. Yena vak abhyudyate. Tadeva brahma tam vidhi. There is nothing else that you can be with. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi naidam yadidam upasate. There is nothing else that is there. This is what is the Vachakam Pranavaha. Now, understand this. This is what the meaning behind it, this is what the purpose behind it. But more important thing is you feel that. Because understanding can only take you to one degree. Intellect can only take you to one level. But after that, it is what that you need to feel it. Now, when we say, let us sing Om together, take a deep breath, and 3/4 of your breath you say Om, but 1/4 is the silence. Feel that silence. And that's a profound silence. That silence is where you transcend the word and then go to silence. It's not a silence of stupidity. It's a silence of sarvajñatva. It's not the silence of ignorance. It's the silence of the wisdom. Listen to that silence. Be with that silence. Understand that silence. But all these words that be with that and understand that and recognize, all these things belong to the mind. But they're supposed to be transcending the mind. But we don't have better way of putting it. And that understanding, feeling of that silence is what is called as bhava. That's why he gives the idea that tasya vachakam pranavaha tajapa tatartha bhavanat. Japa is something that it repeats in your mind. It goes on again and again in your mind. It's not that you are doing it. It is ringing in your mind. When does anything ring in your mind is when it is beyond the level of understanding, but when you start feeling it. What you feel is the one which goes reverberating in your mind. Allow that silence, allow that sarvajñatva, allow that silence which is beyond words. It is not the silence where it is not the stupidity, ignorance. It is the silence beyond the words. That silence, let it reverberate within you. Tajapa, tattatta bhavanat. Artha is understanding that, and bhavana is a feeling behind it. It is a feeling which takes us, and that is the feeling is something which is very important. In the whole creation, when you see that, when you go to that feeling, that enhances the whole creation. The feeling is that which enhances the creation. Rose flower, when you see that, like any other flower that is there, rose is also a flower. But when you see that, you feel the beauty of it. Wow, poetry comes out of it. Wonderful feeling that comes out of it. A satisfaction comes out of it. That's what is the feeling. That means you are transcending beyond the rose flower. Same way when you listen to the nice music, it has words, it has notes, it has various sounds. Maybe sometimes even the instruments are that are there. But the combination of all those things is given such a way it can transcend you. And that transcendence is what makes it as something which is extraordinary. Somebody asked one of the great singers, that Balamurali Krishna, he said, what do you mean by music? He said, anything can be music as long as it is, you listen to it, but it takes beyond your, so much satisfaction it gives you to the ear, it takes you beyond the ears. In fact, in his idea, that's a very beautiful idea. He says that Karna means ears. And that which can give you the satisfaction for your ears, what you hear, is supposed to be music. It can take you beyond the ears. For that, you need to have that ability to feel that. You should go beyond that. Whereas Karl Marx, when he was asked what is music, he said that I can see the best of the music when the army marches in one particular steps. Huh, what a horrible thing it is. That music is something what is beyond. And an army marching is something which is more earthly. So therefore, his approach is about the world outside, whereas what we have the divinity, tajapa, tatartha bhavanat. We need to go transcend that. This is what is the idea of basically the pranava and then transcendental pranava gives. Now, let's go back to that idea of what is Sankhya. Sankhya is about the world. In yoga is something which transcends the world, takes you to that beyond, and which is there your own experience. Let me once again reiterate that all these states that he talks about are there within us. Within us. And that experience is what the Patanjali suggests us. They are there within us, but here and there the glimpse also that I can accept that it is there. But why am I not there? Therefore, all this samadhi pada will take us to that sadhana pada, saying that yes, consciously you can reach that state, you can understand that. That's what Litran Patanjali gives. Let's continue with these discussions next time when we meet. Om Shanti. Thank you.